Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tune Project, or welcome if you're new. So we've talked about the collapsed wrist before and why it's so detrimental to our violin playing. Well, today we're going to be talking about something completely different that's also wrist related, another bad habit that can occur with the wrist, and how you can avoid it so that you can be playing your best. So if you're ready to learn more and are excited about today's topic, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into it. One of the most common issues I've noticed with my students over the years is having what I call a crooked wrist. And what I mean by this is if you were to just have everything stacked up nicely on your arm, your wrist, your hand, your fingers, all of that in a nice straight line, the crooked wrist is when we alter that by manipulating the wrist so that it bends this way. And this happens most often when a beginner student is trying to access the higher strings, such as the E string in particular. So usually they'll start off by having this nice straight line, everything will be in alignment on the G string, the D string, the A string, and then when they get to the E string, something happens where they manipulate their wrist so that there ends up being a slight bend in the wrist that wouldn't otherwise be there. And they usually do this so that they can reach those notes on the higher string. Well, what this does is it not only puts a strain on the wrist and can actually be really uncomfortable, but also can put a strain on the back of the hand and even sometimes the fingers as well, because they're trying to reach for these notes in a setup that's just not ideal. So how do we fix this crooked wrist? Well, it's really simple actually, and it involves one thing, and that is your elbow. So if you were to use your elbow to guide your arm, your wrist, and your hand, instead of trying to manipulate your wrist, that is gonna make it so much easier to access the strings, access any note that you need, and it won't give you that discomfort and strain that the crooked wrist can. So to put this into practice, if we're starting on the G string, let's say, we would want to start with our elbow in a more forward position in front of us, just slightly in front of your body, so that you can access those notes seamlessly and effortlessly. And as you start to come across the higher strings, your elbow should slowly start to move backward so that it's now, instead of it being in front of you and in front of the violin where you can sort of visibly see that it's there, it's starting to move underneath the violin. And then as we get to the E string, this is where it moves maybe even a little bit behind the violin and behind your body ever so slightly. So it's just a very subtle movement that's happening, but we're just using our elbow to, again, just guide the hand, guide the wrist, and guide everything into position so that our hand can maintain the same shape and the same position on every single string. And so you don't have to contort your wrist or do anything odd or unnatural in order to access those notes. So if you think you might be having this issue with the crooked wrist, what I want you to practice is simply swinging your elbow from one side to another. So starting with your fingers just hovering over the G string, no contact with the string whatsoever, just hovering above with your elbow in front of you, everything in your arm, wrist, and hand in alignment, and then slowly swinging your elbow backward as you're just tracing the strings with your index finger. Okay, so again, there's no contact with the strings, we're just sort of drawing a line. And if you have tapes on your violin, this will probably make it even easier because you can actually see that first tape that you're tracing with your index finger. You're wanting to line up the index finger with that first tape. So again, we're just starting with our fingers hovering over the G string. We're slowly swinging our elbow backward until our fingers are hovering over the E string. Hand is in the same position, fingers are in the same position, we're not moving anything, and then we're just gonna come back to the G string by moving our elbow forward all the way to the G string, and then same thing, going all the way back up to the E string. So we're just swinging our elbow forward slowly and back slowly. That's all that it takes. And by simply incorporating this exercise into your playing, you'll notice a significant difference with that crooked wrist, and hopefully this will no longer be an issue for you. Now, when you play the violin, it should be effortless for your fingers to access the notes that you need to. You shouldn't have to overly stretch your fingers, contort your hand or your wrist, or do anything else that feels unnatural or uncomfortable in order to play the violin. And if you're noticing noticing that uncomfortable, tight, strained feeling, or that you're having to do something, put your wrist or hand in positions that it wouldn't otherwise normally be in, then maybe this exercise is for you, and maybe you want to reevaluate your setup as well. And I would really recommend practicing in front of a mirror. This doesn't just go for the wrist, this goes for the bow and anything else you want to work on with your technique. This can be a really great way to, one, identify if you are in fact having this issue of the crooked wrist, because you can see it from that outside perspective, and also you know how to correct it and when your wrist is in alignment. So I'd recommend practicing those elbow swings in front of a mirror as well, just so that you can make sure everything is where it needs to be. So now that you know what the crooked wrist is, I'm curious to hear from you. Have you experienced this in your own playing and your own technique? Let me know in the comment section below. Well, I hope this video was helpful for you, and hopefully you'll soon be on your way to a straight, relaxed wrist and hand. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Happy practicing. If you've made it this far, you must have enjoyed the video, so why not check out this one next? Also, if you'd like exclusive content from the Tune Project and a more personalized experience, head over to Patreon and join our wonderful little fiddle community. Your support helps me to continue to grow as a creator and ensures that I'm able to continue to provide free educational content here on YouTube. Thank you!